multiple factors risk-adjusted return models. This is 139th module of our course of financial management. And this module is again a continuation of our discussion on capital asset pricing model. I hope you remember that when we started our discussion on CAPM, we talked about the calculation of return considering the risk-free rate of return and the additional risk taken by an investor by putting his money in the stock market. And that created a risk premium. And then we talked about adjusting that risk premium considering the beta value, where beta is the index of systematic risk, यानी मार्केट के अंदर जो रिस्क पाया जाता है उसका इंडेक्स, उसको मेजर करने का एक इंस्ट्रूमेंट बीटा है. हम अगले मॉड्यूल्स में बीटा की कैलकुलेशन के बारे में मजीद भी डिस्कस करेंगे. But then we continued with our discussion on CAPM and we took it forward to the three-factor model of Pharma and French, where we introduced the size and value factors, and ultimately we added the fourth factor, and that fourth factor was Carhart's four-factor model, where momentum was also considered. And we saw that this is what the research actually proved, that adding the fourth factor of momentum provided a better explanation of risk-adjusted return. तो हमने कहा कि कारहार्ट के मॉडल ने फार्मा एंड फ्रेंच के थ्री-फैक्टर मॉडल को मजीद इम्प्रूव कर दिया. Now the question is that the researchers should not stop at four-factor model. और ऐसा ही हुआ, रिसर्चर्स वहाँ पर रुके नहीं और बहुत से दूसरे फैक्टर्स को एक्सप्लोर किया गया, बहुत से दूसरे फैक्टर्स को देखा गया कि उनके इस्तेमाल से मॉडल को क्या हम मज़ीद बेहतर कर सकते हैं. इज़ देयर अ बेटर एक्सप्लेनेशन ऑफ द रिस्क एडजस्टेड रिटर्न इंक्लूडिंग अदर फैक्टर्स. एंड एज अ रिजल्ट we came up with several factors models, that is multiple factor models. And these are many different multiple factor models which were developed by different researchers and financial experts. उन मॉडल्स के अंदर हमने मुख्तलिफ वेरिएबल्स को देखना शुरू किया, उनके साथ एक्सपेरिमेंटेशन की, यानी उन फैक्टर्स को इस मॉडल में डाल के हमने ये देखा कि क्या हमारी explanation of the model बढ़ जाती है. Because you know that we have talked about an equation of CAPM, and also that was then taken forward in 3 and 4 factor model, is a regression equation where the independent variables, that is market risk and size and value and momentum, they all explain the dependent variable which is the return. And what is not explained is the error term. अगर ये वेरिएबल जो हम अपने मॉडल में इंक्लूड करते हैं हमारे डिपेंडेंट वेरिएबल को ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा एक्सप्लेन करेंगे, स्टैटिस्टिकल टर्म्स में हम इसको आर स्केयर से शो करते हैं. यानी आर स्केयर हमें ये बताता है कि हमारे मॉडल में इंक्लूडेड इंडिपेंडेंट वेरिएबल्स, यानी कि मार्केट रिस्क and the size and the value and the momentum combinedly, how much do they explain the dependent variable. यानी अगर R square की वैल्यू 70% या 0.7 आएगी तो इसका मतलब है कि हमारा मॉडल 70% वेरिएशन ऑफ द डिपेंडेंट वेरिएबल को एक्सप्लेन कर रहा है. एंड वी वुड लाइक सर्टनली टू हैव more and more explanation of the dependent variables. अब सवाल ये है कि जब हम अपने इस फोर फैक्टर मॉडल में मज़ीद फैक्टर्स को ऐड करते हैं तो क्या डिपेंडेंट वेरिएबल रिटर्न की मज़ीद एक्सप्लेनेशन होती है, दैट इज़ क्या आर स्केयर की वैल्यू मज़ीद बढ़ती है या नहीं बढ़ती. अगर किसी फैक्टर को इंक्लूड करने से आर स्केयर की वैल्यू बढ़ने के बजाय कम हो जाए तो हम कहेंगे कि ये फैक्टर जो है ये हमारे लिए रेलेवेंट नहीं है और इससे मॉडल में कोई इंप्रूवमेंट नहीं हुई. बट रिसर्चर्स हैव वर्कड ऑन डिफरेंट फैक्टर्स एंड दे हैव कम अप विद डिफरेंट रिजल्ट्स. तो इसलिए हम like the CAPM or three-factor model cannot say anything conclusively that which of the multi-factor model provides the best explanation. And this is not the only thing. There are different types of funds or different types of investments whose explanations are provided by different types of independent variables. Let's have a look that what are these multiple factors which are actually included in these models. Some of them are macroeconomic variables. Macroeconomic simply means the economics which is related to countries as whole, economies as a whole. For example, the GDP, the per capita income, the trade balance, the balance of payment are all macroeconomic variables. Then there are fundamentals or fundamental variables. इससे मुराद हमारे वो कंपनीज के या पोर्टफोलियो के की इंडिकेटर्स हैं कि जो उस कंपनी की स्ट्रेंथ्स या वीकनेसेस को शो करते हैं. फॉर एग्जांपल प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी और लिक्विडिटी एंड सिमिलर अदर वेरिएबल्स. देन वी हैव गॉट सम स्टैटिस्टिकल वेरिएबल्स, यानी कुछ फैक्टर ऐसे हैं जो स्टैटिस्टिकल हैं. These are those which are based on the calculation which is done to get some values and develop these variables. And then finally, there are variables which are combination of all these factors. So when we talk about these multiple factor models, there are many multiple factor models developed by various researchers. For example, to see the return and to see the explanation of return on hedge funds, Fung's 7-factor model is also a popular model. If you look at these factors, you would find that none of these 7 factors is out of those which we have discussed in the 3-factor model or in the 4-factor model. These are bond trend following, currency trend, commodity trend. The reason is that this model is specifically designed to see the return of hedge funds. Now, concluding our discussion on this multi-factor model, we look at this equation. If we see this equation, we find that it is very much similar to the ones that we have already discussed in CAPM and 3 and 4 factor models. The only difference is that here we have got not 3 or 4 factors, but we have got more than that. And here N means, capital N means the number of factors. So if we are talking about a 7-factor model, so N will be 7. If we are talking about a 10-factor model, then N will be 10. So we can conclude our discussion on this multi-factor models of risk-adjusted returns by saying that a multi-factor model will be effective or useful if these factors, in addition to the 4 factors that we have talked about, can better explain the return of the investor on a particular fund, on a particular stock, or on a particular portfolio.